Back on TYT Sports, I found a friend. Just did Turks and Jerks by myself. Griffin fell asleep. Jacory fell asleep.
Stand up.
Edwin finally showed up.
Stand up.
The one Raiders fan in the building.
Raiders!
There it is. Let's talk about the NBA, Francis, but more importantly, let's talk about a political issue in the NBA. Most sports leagues, as many people know, on the dotted line when you sign a contract, you have to sign off on agreeing to the substance abuse policy. And the substance that is on almost all of major sports leagues' contract legal writing, marijuana use, banned, regardless what the reasons. Now, you could be the NFL and just be giant assholes and prevent guys like that of the Buffalo Bills who suspended their player who has Crohn's disease, who cannot take Vicodin or painkillers because of his problem. And marijuana helped, but they said, oh, you broke the substance abuse policy. Sorry, no exceptions, you signed the dotted line. And I normally stand on this case if you sign that deal, but I just made the point in the Turks clip, there's exceptions to rules, as always. Steve Kerr and Klay Thompson both believe marijuana should be medicinally legal for use by players if they need it. Let's go to Steve Kerr, and then we'll go to Klay Thompson. Steve Kerr comes from the Warriors Insider podcast. Very interesting stuff, worth listening to the whole thing if you have time.
Along similar lines, in recent years, I'm going to say the last 5 or 10 years, it's evident that the national image and stance on marijuana has evolved. A lot of states have, obviously went from decriminalizing it to legalizing it and selling it. Can you see a day when maybe sports leagues look at pot as just no different than maybe alcohol?
I would hope so, and I'm not a pot person. It doesn't agree with me. I've tried it a few times, and it did not agree with me at all. So I'm not the expert on this stuff, but I do know this: if you're an NFL player in particular, and you've got a lot of pain, I don't think there's any question that pot is better for your body than Vicodin, and yet athletes everywhere are prescribed Vicodin like it's vitamin C, like it's no big deal. And there's like this perception in our country that, over-the-counter drugs are fine, but, pot is bad. Now, I think that's changing. You're seeing that change in these laws that you're talking about in different states, including California. But I would just hope that the sports leagues are able to look past the perception. I'm sure the NFL is worried that their fans are going to go, oh, all the players are potheads. But, I read about a player recently an NFL player who was, maybe you know the story better than I do, but he was suffering from a condition that did not allow him to take steroids or painkillers. And so he used medicinal marijuana instead, and he got suspended 10 games. You know this story?
Yeah,
Francis Maxwell, I know your stance is on a lot of these. I don't like calling them issues because that's a negative kind. This is an issue. Obviously, there should be some changes in the legal writing. Obviously, weed is better for you than Vicodin.
Yeah.
What does the NBA need to do to fix this?
We first need to establish the humour in when someone who's not part of our generation tries to address weed or anything. Is they call it either like it's the pot. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the pot or the cocaine or the weed. And then usually it all happens with a difference of opinion whether how you get it into your body. It's
the pot.
Yeah, those kids, they're just out there doing the pot. What do you mean doing the pot?
I'm going to throw my dad on the bus. My dad used to say, he's like, are you sitting in the basement blowing weed? To which my friends would always say, they go, Mr. Rubin, you don't blow the weed, you smoke the weed.
Not here. But it's not just like weed, it's anything that's true to our generation. It's like they're always on the Instagram or the Snapchat, the snappy thing. And I'm like,
what is Bill Belichick? The my face, your face, Insta face.
and then taking it one step further to completely outplay the joke, is it really your mum or dad if they don't hold their iPhone like this and scroll with their index finger? There's a reason we're different from the other animals that haven't evolved yet because we have the thumbs.
Are you saying
we have the thumbs to use it? That's why. So when you're like, is it really your mom or dad? All right. Anyway, but no, I think this is it's a valid point. Like, how many times do we have to have this argument? How many times do we have to put forward the message that there's a reason why this substance is becoming legal because researchers have went into studies that show that, one, it's not as bad for your body. It can help with pain. It doesn't give you an advantage over your opponent. The reason that every single thing that we talk about won't be pushed as far through as I think when it comes to sports or anything else is because Vicodin, players will take it like vitamin C because it's distributed by big pharmaceutical companies who therefore make a lot of money from it. Weed is naturally growing and they can't sell it to the point where they can make that money back. This is why big corporations, when it comes to pharmaceutical projects, will always have the stranglehold over industries such as sports, and these substances, as we've seen through documentaries in the past, are made to be like a taboo. Like the weed will always be considered that taboo until we stop calling it the weed. That's why that thing we smoke.
The devil's lettuce.
The devil's. So I think there is some more substance to look into. There's a reason why it hasn't been deemed as acceptable, especially in sports like UFC where your body's getting battered all around the place. And I've been a vocal advocate against the likes of Nick Diaz, who continues to do it, even though he knows the rules are different. But I don't even agree with there needs to be exception to the rule. I just think there needs to be not a rule.
Well,
and just have them...
Right, but there's steps that would be taken because I think if I'm trying to look at this from the professional sports leagues angles, the only thing I could see is them saying, well, we don't want, and I hate when people associate, the culture of somebody who does smoke weed to infiltrate our business. So I do think in part of the way is make it silently legal in a way. Make it so you can't be on, if you want to protect something, which again, it's going to be legalized, I would hope everywhere in this country, the United States, by the time I'm 35 in 10 years, I mean, I would hope, I really would. But my point being is that maybe they don't want it across social media. So make sure it's in the, if you want to be safe, then put it in the language, right? Of course, I'm all for the idea of put it in the language of every contract that you can get as high as you damn well please. Don't show up high to work, and don't show, like for the day, like on game day itself, but we, like as Steve Kerr was pointing out specifically, if you want to reject science, by all means, but you cannot look me in the eye and tell me that it is safer to take Vicodin at the rate that NFL and some NBA players do compared to simply smoking after.
And we know how addicting it can be. Like players get addicted to painkillers.
That's my favorite irony.
But yeah,
is it's painkillers are an addictive substance.
But I see your point, Jay.
Like,
weed on social media. Like we really need to keep a limit on that. Like next thing we're gonna have Snoop Dogg doing a full show where he's just smoking. Oh wait,
I was explaining from I'm saying from the NBA's or the NFL standpoint. I don't give a flying F if they want to smoke weed at practice. Go for it.
The weed.
I'm sorry, the pot. We also have Klay Thompson, who might have been high during the interview.
I'm gonna go out.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. But here's the interview.
Guts for Steve Kerr to come out and publicly say I tried marijuana a couple of times to deal with back pain, and it's painkillers aren't; those are hard on you too. And as he said to Monty yesterday, and I'm guessing you've been on heavy duty stuff at some point that to deal with pain over your...
I actually have not. I've been very lucky. No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've taken a Teradol shot a couple times, but other than that, nothing crazy. But I mean, Steve's open-minded, and obviously with the way the world's going, if there's anything you can do that's medicinal, and I mean, and people are all for it, and especially when there's stuff like Crohn's disease out there, glaucoma, a bunch of stuff, cancer, but not recreationally. That should not be of its use ever, but there's obviously a medicinal side to it that people are finding out have benefits, especially people with really high pain.
I mean, not recreationally. Come on, man.
It went from varied diseases there. It went like Crohn's disease, glaucoma, and I'm not taking anything away from people that have glaucoma, and then like right back up
my
to
grandma's
cancer.
very upset with you.
I was going to say, isn't that like a disease that really plagues old people?
Yeah, it's also like one of the best excuses that people will use to go get a marijuana card in any place that's legal is, or if it's like in Colorado in the United States, it's you can just go into the pot store and buy pot. But if you're in California, you need a medical card, and the best part about that is walk down a couple of the beach towns, and there's doctors, the green doctors, in green scrubs.
Yeah, they wear green
Come
coats.
in, take your blood pressure. What is it? I don't sleep well at night. Well, here you go, Jim.
Insomnia.
Enjoy the pot store. How are your eyes doing? Oh, looks like early onset glaucoma. Enjoy the weed card. This is something that, as progressive, hopefully, values start infiltrating the NFL and the NBA, they'll realize that maybe, just maybe, it's healthier for their players to not be taking addictive substances like Vicodin, like oxycodone, and all that. The NBA is already more progressive than that of the NFL. The NFL just simply likes to reject science or refuse to release findings on it because, let's keep it real for a second, this is an organization that kept a lot of important documentation, evidence, and science about concussions very quiet for a long, long time.
It's is the peak of irony when it's an organization that does everything they can to kind of withhold information that puts you at risk and your body's at risk, to therefore be that high and mighty judge, jury that say, nah, we don't think you should be taking that to keep your bodies in somewhat decent, or to prevent you from further pain, because you know what? We don't like it that much, but we're not the ones that are out there getting battered all over the field, and even if we were, we wouldn't tell you whether or not you're at risk of severe brain damage or CTE or anything else. So, yeah, the NFL, I think, are lost on. I don't see them making as much progression going forward as anything else. Even, by the way, this is another point off topic. Well, it's still on topic, but it's off continent?
Tangents?
Yeah, off continent.
Happens when you smoke the weed.
Back in the UK, like, and across world football, they're not as progressive as many would think when it comes to weed either. Like, it's still a taboo at home. My mum is a prime example. You mentioned, like, when I talked to her about it, she's like, what? You can get it in the streets? The weed?
The pot.
You're coming home. Get back on the flight. Your mind's getting tainted out there.
The pot. The pot.
The pot. Make the pot legal. Hashtag it.
Make the pot great again. Comment below. Like, favorite, subscribe. Steve Kerr also admitted that he used it for his back pain. At one point during the podcast, too, he talks about it just doesn't, it didn't really agree with me. But that's just me. But my back felt better. So, favorite, like we said, subscribe to the channel. Goes a long way. Francis_Maxwell on the Twitter. At Francis Maxwell Hoost on the Instagram. JCRuben91 for both. We'll see you next time.